This massive shed build was built out of EMT conduit and electrical junction boxes as connectors. Matt did an awesome job, but he did it a little bit differently than we're used to. He took off-the-shelf steel junction boxes and then turned these into electrical connectors. At Maker Pipe, we make EMT conduit connectors, so this might put us out of business if it really works well. So we're going to talk about that, see how well this works and what the possibilities are, and then explore how you could use it in your Maker Pipe builds or EMT conduit builds in the future. So let's take a look at that. Now, I've got all kinds of electrical boxes. We hit up the hardware store and grabbed anything that I thought would work. And as you can see, these are electrical junction boxes. Normally they are used by electricians in buildings, to house wires, to house electrical outlets or switches, or make connections in wires, right? So that's the normal electrical use of these. And they come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. You got this one, I think that's a masonry. You've got a 4 section there. 2, this one has a bracket to mount on a wall. Octagonal, round, so a lot of different options. And they all have, all the metal ones anyway, have these knockouts. And what these knockouts are for is, depending on how you have conduit coming into this, they have conduit connectors that have a lock ring and thread, and then once you knock out that hole, those just bend and take them off like that. But once you have that knocked out, this goes, and then that lock ring goes on the inside, and then you've got a way to run conduit and wires then into the box, right? And that's the main concept that we're talking about today, is how can you knock out those in strategic places, use this basically steel box and use it as a fitting or a way to join multiple pieces of EMT conduit together. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But I do want to notice or say that there's also a lot of plastic. And this seems like what is being used most often in today is these plastic junction boxes, where instead of the knockout, you've got just this breakaway, and I don't think it's supposed to break all the way, but it's because it's supposed to hold the wire a little bit, there we go, where it bends, holds the wire in place, and then that's how you get the wire going into the junction box. And I guess you wouldn't be running it in with EMT, it's just a bare electrical wire. But these plastic boxes, I don't see a whole lot of use. And prove us wrong, right? How could you use these plastic junction boxes with EMT conduit builds? But we're not talking about these. Don't consider those in what we're talking about. So I think as we look at this, and we're always looking for creative ways to use ordinary materials. But, like I showed, if you wanted to have this octagonal box connect, let's just say a 90, right? You've got a pipe coming in. This is a corner piece of your build. You could definitely do that. You have that one there, and then you knock out this one. Get that out there. Put a connector there. And while I'm doing this, I'd like to point out that these are stamped steel. There's a few other ones that they make, like that are cast zinc. I don't think these are nearly as strong as the stamped steel ones. And then you can see this one has a set screw, which just grabs onto the pipe like that. You can tighten it down and it locks on and holds it in place, right? And that's important if you're running wires through this, so you don't have something poking into the center. We like to replace these with screws, self-tapping screws. It provides a little bit better of a hold. But there's also these compression fittings. And the way that these work is there's a little compression ring in there. You can see this little piece here. And this compresses around the outside of the conduit and then holds just with some friction or compressive force. So that goes together like that. You've got two pieces that screw together. That slides in there, and then as you tighten that down, it compresses and holds that pipe into place. So you can use these interchangeably. I just really like these, the stamped steel version with the screw that you take out and then run a self-tapping screw. And don't do that if you're actually gonna run wires through this. I mean, you'll have a sharp screw head that'll damage the wires, right? So, but as you can see, we've kind of created a corner piece like that. And it still leaves us with a number of other possibilities. We could run another one here and have what we call a four-way. Now it's not in the same plane, you've got that offset, but you could see where you could have a lot of flexibility in this octagonal box to do all kinds of connections. And I also want to show you that we use 3/4 connectors, but you can see this is a 1/2-inch one made for 1/2-inch EMT conduit. And we saw this, a lot of the boxes did have these 1/2-inch knockouts as well. And this is a 1/2-inch connector made for, 1/2-inch connector made for 1/2-inch EMT. So now we're mixing 3/4-inch conduit with 1/2-inch. And you might want to do this if you need more rigidity or more strength in this pipe or the vertical, and then this is less load bearing. You can mix and match, which is a concept of our normal connectors. You're able to do that with our normal maker pipe connectors, but you can also do that with these junction boxes as well. So a lot of flexibility, and this is only one of the designs. You can see there's also a smaller one. This one had all of the 3/4-inch knockouts. You've got another similar to the octagonal, but a few more knockouts there. I thought this masonry one was cool. What allows you to either knock out the 1/2-inch version, or this might be a little bit more difficult, but you can pry, I'm not going to do it, but you get the idea. You can pry a bigger hole for the 3/4-inch conduit version. So just a whole lot of different options with this. Now, some of the more unique ones I thought was this one with a bracket spot welded on the side of the box. So if you're trying to figure out how to mount to a flat surface, you could see how that could be done with this. You break that, knock out, and then you've got some mounting points so you can mount that to a flat surface or a wall. That could be a possibility. We also picked up this one circular. It's a really narrow box. I think this was meant for ceiling fans or a ceiling fixture. And you can see this one has a 1/2-inch knockout in the center. So that could make a cool flange, a couple mounting points, and then drill a screw in there. And there's something, oh, you just want to take these screws out. I think that was what was preventing it from being flat. But you can imagine that being a flange as well. So there's a whole lot of possibilities. And, you know, you might say, well, it doesn't look too good, and I can't argue with you there. But how strong is it? How well does it function? I don't know. You've got a big open space, and that's where a lot of the stamped steel covers come in. You know, here's one Well, you've got the normal flat ones, right? That's for a different box. But you have the normal flat ones, and we even found some with a knockout on the actual cover as well. So if you knock that out, maybe it's the other way. This one's tough. So if you knock that one out, take that off, you've got spot for another one. So you just, you know, all kinds of different connections, a lot of flexibility. And, you know, I could see, just like we saw that shed build, I could see you building a structure out of this. Give it a try. You know, I think obviously we make connectors, right? I'm really confident in the strength and usability of our connectors, but, you know, we like throwing these solutions out and seeing, you know, what's useful, because any more tools in your toolbox, I think, are definitely helpful when you're trying to solve a problem or build like this. We've also seen in the community where people use electrical junction boxes in the build to achieve different electrical means or electrical features, like adding a light, adding power, you know, so plugs and electrical plugs in their builds. Really good example is this drafting desk, where there were lights built in and a switch, and then this lathe table as well was another great example that people built in. And then what a concept, right? Actually running wires through conduit. Not something we normally do, but definitely a way to enhance your build and make electrical junction box part of your project to solve a specific problem. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let us know what you think. Should we be using electrical junction boxes to make builds out of EMT conduit? Are you guys happy with the maker pipe connectors and don't need this? Love to hear from you. If you like this video, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.